This episode is not brought to you by Campari. When you want a cool, refreshing pick-me-up, simply say,
Thank you. I'll have a Campari.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm not going to pay for it. Just put that on ERB Inks tab. Thank you. Hey everybody, Mike Wolfer here. This is Graphic Tales, the YouTube show for comic book creators, comic book publishers, comic book readers, and anyone with an unquenchable thrill for adventure. This show is all about comic books, and this week we're going to have a bit of a mixed bag. I'm going to hit on a bunch of different topics. The first thing I want to talk about is rock. I used to work at a local newspaper, the Delaware State News, and the newsroom used to receive promotional materials for review, right? So they would get all kinds of stuff. They would put it all in a box. We didn't have a reviewer there at the newspaper, so nothing ever happened with this stuff. So every once in a while when they were cleaning up the office, they would put everything together and put it in the break room and just say, whoever wants it, takes it. So one day while I was at work, I happened to go in the break room and the box of stuff was there, and I was like, oh, cool, free stuff. And I looked through it, and I didn't really see anything I liked except for this. It was an album. Manitoba's Wild Kingdom. I had no idea what it was. I had no idea who they were. But I'm like, well, it looks sort of metal, you know. I don't know. We'll give it a shot. It's free. I took it home. I listened to it. And I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I still love it. So the lesson to be learned is, if you're a comic book publisher, you might want to give your stuff away for free. No, it doesn't hurt to send out promo copies, because you never know whose hands it's going to fall into. I mean, the record company that put that album out, they were trying to reach me, but I didn't know it, and they didn't know it either. And I would never have seen that in a record store. And I just stumbled upon it. And people can do the same thing with your stuff. They might not know they want it, but when they see it, they're going to be thrilled and excited, which is one of the reasons why it's good to do conventions if you can afford to do that. It's good to meet people. You may run into, potential fans who are looking for exactly what you've got, but they didn't know where to look. But spread yourself around Facebook. Spread yourself around all social media. Show people what it is that you do, and if possible, give descriptions that are very brief and to the point and describe the genre. People don't want to get, a detailed history of who the character is and all that stuff. Just give them a punchy little 2 or 3 sentences. Boom, this is what it is, and this is why you want it. And also, too, if possible, show the actual interior art. This is so important, and I see this on Kickstarter all the time. How many times have we seen a fantastic cover, and then we open it up and we go, oh, not so much, right? So, I mean, I had to take this home to figure out what it was, and luckily, the content far surpassed the album cover art. This is cool, but it's very basic, and it doesn't say who or what these guys are. But man, whew, that record inside, killer. And that's what you want to do with your comic book releases. Even if you don't have a great cover, you don't have a big name artist to grace the front of your book, blow them away with the interiors. Show people your panel-to-panel continuity. If you can, show them sample pages, not just pinups, not just covers. So, there you go. Today's lesson. Might not be the first and only one. There may be more. Next up, Wayne Gendron sent in a question, and he said, Mike, can you talk about paper? And I said, yes, sir, I can. Wayne, paper is what comics are printed on. Next question. No. So his questions were basically, when you are a publisher and you go to a printer, they give you all kinds of options. They say, what do you want on the interior? What kind of cover stock? What kind of interior stock? This, that. If you're unfamiliar with that, you may not be sure what to say. So I'm just going to give you the basics of your generic basic comic book. And this is what I print. This the specs that I use. I do all of my printing with Kablam Digital Printing. They do phenomenal work. The turnaround time is lightning fast. The packaging is incredible. Very, very, very few damages unless USPS decides they want to really kick the hell out of a box. They pack everything very securely. The print quality is just beautiful. Disclosure, I did that so I could get a discount on my next order. Wink, wink. So your basic comic book looks like this. And these are the paper types that I'm going to mention here are, this is what Kablam offers, and this is what I get printed with them. Although many other printers may have the same paper stocks. You may see this across the board. So I got to be careful because this is an issue of Widow, and there may be things I can't show. The interior paper is 70-pound high bright. And if they don't spell out pound, it's a hashtag. So interior stock is, the thickness is denoted by pound. So interior is 70-pound high bright, which is, it's a little bit glossy. I mean, it's not like newsprint, it's definitely a glossy paper, but it's not too glossy. It's not like super shiny to where, you got to tilt it at all kind of angles to read it. It's a beautiful paper. The cover stock is, I think, gosh, I don't know. I think it's the same thing. No, it can't be because it's a glossy. But all comics they have, if you just pick the generic settings with Kablam, you're going to get this nice cover stock and the pretty interior paper. The colors really jump, but not too much to where if it's a super glossy interior paper, colors tend to be like neon and it can be distracting. So it all depends on what you're going for. But this stuff is beautiful. Now, if you're doing a trade paperback, again, you have the same interior paper. It's going to be the 70-pound high bright. But you have two options for cover stock. Now, cover stock on a trade paperback is thicker, and it's like a cardboard, and that's measured in points. That's, the thickness of the paper is measured by, like 8 point, 10 point, 12 point. So the sort of standard trade paperback cover stock is 10 point. And Kablam offers two options. They have a gloss finish, and you can see it's glossy, right? It's a gloss finish, and there's also a satin finish, there is a coating on it, but it doesn't have that super high gloss to it, which I actually prefer the satin finish, again, because you don't have to tilt it at different angles because there's a light glaring and all of that. So I like the satin finish. That's just me. Another kind of paper that you may be interested in is for blank or sketch cover editions. And this, again, is 10-point stock. The paper that Kablam uses, it does not have a finish. I don't even know if there's an option to have a glossy coat put on this. Personally, when I do sketch covers, I do not want to draw on a paper stock that has a gloss finish, because pencil just smudges, ink does not want to dry on it, and it can be a huge mess. Here's another thing. Stick with me on this. Back in 1974, Marvel Comics put out this magazine. Marvel movie premiere, The Land That Time Forgot. It was an adaptation of the movie, the 1974 movie that came out. I also work, as I mentioned before, I work for Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated, and I head up their comics publishing program. So we're doing a new 50th anniversary edition of this book. And I have a sample here. This is beautiful. It's going to blow you away. This is the new one, baby. Woo! Look at that. And Kablam Digital Printing printed this for us. Isn't that just phenomenal? Now that's a holographic foil. Isn't that just awesome? This is the like super deluxe edition, and then there's a regular edition that has like the original cover art also beneath this. But as you can see, the entire thing has a sheen to it. It's printed on holographic foil paper. Now, more about paper. There's also trading cards, like so. Here's a Widow trading card. These are 16-point stock. I get all of my trading cards and the Oracle cards that I do, and postcards and things like that, bookmarks. I get all of those done by Primo Print. And when you go to Primo Print and you pull up their trading card option, they're going to say, do you want that 14, 16, or 18 point? And I go with 16. 18 is a little bit too thick for my liking, and 14 is just way too flimsy. But 16 is perfect, especially when you have a gloss coating, when you pick the option for gloss UV coating on both sides. That adds to the thickness also, and it makes for a nice, beautiful, shiny, sturdy card. So here's the thing. Here's the insider tip. Don't tell anybody I told you this. Ever since the COVID-19 pandemic, 16-point cardstock is really hard to find. And a lot of times when I go to order trading cards or, Oracle cards or whatever, 16 is not available. And I've printed a ton of these in the past. These are all part of a set. So I can't go with a different cardstock thickness because it's not going to fit with the rest of the deck. I have to have 16. So it's tough. You need to plan ahead. If you're going to be offering something in a Kickstarter, if you're going to be doing trading cards and you tell people you're going to be shipping on this date, you better order those way, way, way ahead of time from the printer, because they might be out of the cardstock you're looking for, and you might have to wait a month until they get more in. Also, there's postcards. This is a Land That Time Forgot postcard that we did for ERB Inc. I don't know if you can see that. Here's Natalie Jane as Sita the Savage. These are 16 point also. And with Primo Print, 16 point for postcards is like not available a lot. So here's the secret. They print other products on the same paper. They just call them something different. So this 8.5 by 5.5 by 5.5. It's an 8.5 by 5.5 postcard. It's also called, you can find this in the wedding invitation category. So if you order postcards and they don't have the 16 point, check out the wedding invitations and you'll see that they have it available over there. So you just order it and you just call it a wedding invitation. So here, another point too, like what I mentioned with the sketch covers not having a gloss finish. if you're going to be doing any sort of writing on trading cards or postcards, and I don't mean just a signature, I mean like, so for example, on a postcard, you would fill out the back and mail this to someone. You probably don't want a gloss finish on this because it will be harder to write on and it may smear, ink might not dry on it. So keep that in mind. You can get it without a gloss coating, which is what we do with these postcards. We do gloss on the outside, on the front, no gloss on the back. Well, I hope that answers your question, Wayne. You probably got more than you wanted, but I don't know. I hope I helped. If you have any other questions, just let me know. But, if you deal with someone like Kablam, if you have questions and you are absolutely clueless about what to do and what to order, they will help you, so just ask. So the last thing for this episode, a little anecdote I wanted to tell you. In episode 9, I was talking about comic book conventions, and after I finished that episode, I thought of something funny that happened, and I was like, yeah, I should have told that story, but it wouldn't really have fit. So I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you now. I did a lot of shows, a lot of conventions back in the early 2000s with Avatar Press, all over the country, up into Canada. I was flying all over the place all the time, and we had a lot of activity at the booth at the time. They were publishing Gravel and Stitched and Alan Moore's Yugoth Creatures and Warren Ellis's stuff and Garth Ennis's stuff. I mean, there was a lot going on back in those days, so we were always very, very busy, and sometimes we would get stir crazy from just running, just constantly from one customer to the next, So one time at a show, I forget where this, you know what? I think it was San Diego. Pretty sure it was San Diego. We would see people, you kind of like size them up as they approach the booth. And because that's the games you play in your head when you're standing on your feet for 8 to 10 hours. So we saw this guy walk up, and he looked a little confused. He was, I don't know, maybe mid-20s. And he had some, comics and a program and, some papers with him and stuff. And he brought it up to the booth, and he was standing there, and he's looking at his papers, and he's reading, and he's looking up at the signage. He's looking down at his papers again. He's going through. He's looking up, and he's reading. He's looking through, and we're like, okay, this guy definitely, he's looking for something, and we don't know what it is. So me and Dave Marks, who was working with Avatar Press at the time, the two of us approached him. And we said, hey, how you doing, pal? Can we help you with anything? Do you have any questions? And the guy very sincerely, he looked at us and he said, who created Jesus? We didn't know what to say. Like, I'm no theologian, but I don't really know how to answer that question, And I'm thinking, is there a comic book called Jesus? I don't know. So Dave and I just kind of looked at each other, and we didn't laugh at him. We wanted to laugh at the situation, but we were like, oh, yeah. Yeah, maybe the people over at the Image booth might be able to help you with that. And he was like, oh, okay. And he walked away. So there's my story. That was one of the weirdest things that happened. We used to get all kinds of crazy questions. And many of them had absolutely nothing to do with the books we published. People come up all the time, like all day long. They're like, hey, how you doing? And we're like, oh, this must be a super fan, and they come up and they're like, hi, I'm so-and-so. And I'm like, hi, how you doing? I'm Mike Wolfer. And they're like, oh my God, it's so great to meet you. Do you know where the bathrooms are? Yeah, over there and over there. Okay, thanks. And they're gone. we deal with that all day long. Comic conventions are fun, man. If you can afford it, you should do it. But if you watched last episode, you need to make sure you can afford it. So that's going to be it for this week. Next week, I don't know. Have not a clue. I do have a clue. You know what I want to talk about next week? This isn't about comics. I want to talk about my novel that's coming out. The Land That Time Forgot, Fortress Primeval. This is going to be shipping, I think, February 11th, I think. Something like that. Wait, what is today? Oh, okay, so maybe this will be out in stores by the time I do the next issue. So in any case, I'm going to start blabbing. I'm going to start talking about it. Since it's out in the wild, I'm going to talk about the characters and maybe a little bit about, what it took to write this thing and how it just broke my spirit and almost ruined me. No, this is one of the most incredible, fulfilling experiences I've had in my career, and I want to share it with you. So, yeah, next week, Land That Time Forgot, Fortress Primeval. So until then, have yourself a nice Campari, or don't, and I'll see you next week.